Good evening, everybody. Nice to see some faces that I saw last week and a few new faces. So we're here this evening to talk about how we grow businesses through sales. Hello.
I'm busy.
Havana,
My presenter opener.
Havana's decided to take the night off.
Oh, the button pusher.
You do a great job with that. Not going to spend, you know who we are. So this is me. I've just noticed wrong word up there.
What?
Should be sales, not marketing your business.
We're
It should be-
doing sales.
We're doing sales day. Go back to that one, though. Go back.
This is sales.
Go.
You make sure.
Back sales, back.
Go backwards. Go back.
Now,
Oh my goodness.
There we go.
Next slide. Thank you. All right. Well, that should say sales. This is a great start, isn't it? Good Lord. So
He's not paying me very well.
I know. I'll tell you.
Great volunteer.
So those of you who were here last week, you heard this, but just very briefly, I've basically been in the business of sales and marketing for about 45 years, with various different companies. Some you might recognize, like Fisher Price Toys, where I left there as VP of Marketing, headhunted to Hamilton Beach Proctor Silex, the small kitchen appliance company, where I was VP of Marketing and also ran their international sales and marketing business for a few years. American Woodmark Corporation is a very large, cabinet manufacturer. We sold cabinets to Lowe's, Home Depot, all the big builders through various different channels. I was there for about 9, going on 10 years. In that time, we went from about $200 million in sales to over $1 billion. So that was a lot of fun and definitely had a lot to do with sales as well as marketing. I was fortunate, I was able to retire very early from corporate America, but I love sales and marketing, so I started my own independent consulting business. Did that for a while, and in the process of that came across some young people, and together we started a 3D printing business, which was, again, incredibly great fun. That was in Richmond, Virginia. And I'm a SCORE mentor. So no, I don't have a business card. I probably could have one with SCORE Mentor, but as I just mentioned to this gentleman.
Make a mental note.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, but it really should say retired, enjoying life, having fun. Plus, I get to do a lot of to-dos at home for my lovely lady. Anyway, that's me. So I've been in the business of sales and marketing for, say, a long time, and things have changed, no question about it, but the fundamentals, whether it's marketing or sales, really hasn't changed that much. And in fact, tonight, talking about sales, I think is probably as true with regards to that as anything. So the next slide, please. Again, you know about SCORE, so I won't spend any time on that. Next slide. I met many of you last week. So those of you who weren't here last week, could you just very briefly, Terrence?
I have the barbecue sauce business, Ramsey's Barbecue.
Here in Oklahoma?
Yes, here in Oklahoma.
Just in Oklahoma at the moment?
Just in Oklahoma.
Okay, cool.
He wasn't here because he was at what was that show?
Yeah, one of the stores
It
that I
shows.
had, local stores had a spotlight for my company. And so what we did was we invited guests, they sold tickets. And I talked about my barbecue sauce and we served it on a meal. We had steak, shrimp, salad.
Oh,
Featured my
stop
barbecue
it,
sauce.
I haven't
and
eaten
rub.
yet.
So that's why we took it.
So he was doing, Terrence was busy doing what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Ah, marketing, very good.
Yeah, he has some sales as well.
Cool.
Oh, awesome. Marlene Snow, and what I hope to, I have low vision strategies where I help people with vision impairments in their home. And I hope to either grow it and become more of the CEO. I'm a solopreneur right now, so I'm doing everything.
Right.
And so I'm looking to kind of bring on people to have them do more of it, and I'll step back and do more of the marketing and stuff like that.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Margarita?
Yeah, So, as you know, my name is Margarita, and I pass along my business card.
Very good.
I'm with Man Massage and Spa, and then I'm also a real estate agent, real estate investor as well. Today I'm come here because my friends gave me the business needs analysis. I was in a trade. I was a business in a business trade retreat. I take all of my work, put all my work at home, but only bring that one. That one made me feel like I need a training, so that's why I'm coming here.
Cool.
Yes.
Very good, thank
Yes.
you. And you weren't here last week, were you?
I was here, I think.
Were you last week?
No.
Come on, you weren't you? This lovely lady is, what's the opposite? If I'm the mentor, she's
Mentee.
the mentee, right?
Have one
So
papers.
we've been having some good chats, but
Yeah.
for the sake of the rest of the group,
My
Have
name is
one?
No, it's a workspace, I'm just filming out here. I
Need paper?
Yeah.
am a skilled graphic designer, but I design backpacks and travel bags and things like that.
very good. And I don't, were you
I was
there?
here.
You
Yes.
were, weren't you?
Different hairdo.
Yeah.
I did mine too, I don't know if you know.
I cut this hair.
Nonprofit.
Right.
I was with the nonprofit organization,
But sorry,
the nonprofit organization that I'm trying to do.
that's correct.
She's the
That's
one
right.
that's trying to teach mentoring for students.
Yes.
That's right, very cool. And I think I met, didn't meet you, sir?
I'm Angel Rodriguez. I'm a tattoo artist. I work out of Oklahoma Tattoo Collective.
Oh.
I've been there since April 3rd of 2019, a little bit before COVID. Got my apprenticeship there, got a license, legit now, so I get to do tattoos every so often, and I'm learning a little bit about the trade, and so eventually I want to be able to start my own business and spread my wings and
Correct.
bring in other people to mentor myself.
Excellent, that's terrific. Wow, we've got a really wide range of businesses and ideas for businesses here, so great, thank you. So let's get started here. So sales is just part of this much larger holistic concept of business, of running a business. We talked last week about marketing and how that fits into all these different elements of running a business. And tonight we're here talking about sales and how to use sales to grow your business. Next slide. So over the course of the next hour and a quarter, there's a lot to cover. I'm sure we'll get through it. But basically, we'll cover some of these topics. What is sales? There are a number of different types of sales. We'll cover that. How to use the elements of selling to grow your business, whether it be through expanding distribution channels, the difference between transactional and relationship selling, how you can look at improving the whole sales process. Having the right process in place is important to running a successful sales team and also in terms of growing your business. Who should be on your sales team, how to motivate your sales team, and how to benchmark that team in order to know whether or not what you're doing is making improvements. Thank you, next slide. So what is sales? Sales versus marketing. Again, for those of you last week, we talked about this in a very simple, and there's millions of different definitions, but the one I'm using here in its most simplified fashion, marketing, and marketing, if you remember from last week, is both a noun and a verb. Marketing identifies opportunities for, builds awareness of, and attracts leads to your business. That's the job of marketing, is identify needs, identify opportunities, do all that work, and then help bring people who may be interested in that product or service to you. That's the creation of leads. Sales, the job of sales is then to convert those leads into paying customers. Businesses, like I've put here, typically use or should use a holistic collaborative approach between the two. Now, if you're a one-man business, not that difficult, because look in the mirror and there's your partner in sales, right? Or in marketing. If you're in a larger business, you may well have a sales and a marketing department. It is terribly important they work hand in hand, because without it, there's a lot of disjointed activity going on where one doesn't really know what the other's doing, and so on and so forth. So, for example, when I worked well, actually virtually all the companies, but in particular at Fisher-Price Toys, we would do the marketing, we would develop the toys, we would come up with the ideas, and we would get all the marketing together, the advertising, the promotion, the media, and then we would have an official, literally official handoff to sales. We would have a big meeting where the marketing person would stand up and they would present to the sales force, here's this product, here's this toy, this is what it does, this is what it does, this is all the research behind it, this is why it's a great product, here's how we're advertising it, it's now over to you to go and sell it to the likes of Toys R Us and Walmart and Target and all the rest of the toy retailers. So we would have that literal handoff. And then we would continue to work together over the course of the year. So that's the difference between sales and marketing, but they work together. The next slide. So sales types. So many different types. That's good, no? A bit of gum in there on these. Oh, no. I don't pay you enough for that.
Well, I was aiming for a raise.
Oh, yeah.
What's 20% of
We didn't
nothing?
talk about that, didn't we? Yeah.
What's 20% of nothing?
What's 20% of nothing? So, direct versus indirect. What's the difference between direct and indirect? Anybody want to take a guess? In this context? Yes, sir.
More hands-on, like virtual, direct.
It could be, could be. What we're talking about here, though, is when you, let's give an example. You're a tattoo artist, and you will have consumers coming into your tattoo parlor or office or whatever you call it, and they're there to have a tattoo. That's direct, because it's just you directly to that consumer. When I was at Fisher-Price Toys, we had indirect, because we went through retailers. So a retailer is between me, Fisher-Price Toys, and the lady or man buying the toy from the store. So it was indirect. So there was somebody, some piece of the process that was outside of our total control as it related to the end user. The same thing works whether you're doing business to business or business to consumers. Sometimes there will be someone between you and the end user, okay? So you've got business to business, you've got business to consumer, and then very often you've got a hybrid of both, where you might be selling to a business and then that business is selling on to the consumer, any number of different combinations there. Then you have inside sales versus outside sales. Inside sales, now we're talking physically inside the office, inside the building where the company resides, and they may well have a telemarketing or a telephone piece of their sales team, and there's lots of benefits of that. When you're not having to get into a car and drive somewhere, it's amazing how many calls you can make in a day, right? If you're out on the street, the outside salespeople, how many calls can you make? You've got to physically get there, and if you're in places like LA, you may never get there because of the traffic. And so there are some very obvious pros and cons. One of the pros, again, of inside sales is that not only can they make a lot of calls, but very often they've got a manager who's looking at what they're doing. You know, it's kind of a little bit of the big brother, is you can see what your inside sales team is up to, you can listen in on them, you can actually train them on the job. We used to do that a lot of at the American Woodmark Corporation, where we had an inside sales team, and we could help train the person, our person on the phone by, you know, talking into their ear while they were actually on the phone to a customer to help guide them with what they were trying to provide. On the other hand, you can't do that with an outside salesperson anywhere near as easily. You can travel with them, but you can't be right with them all the time. On the other hand, there are many businesses where people need, want, desire to have that personal face-to-face contact. So very often, again, you'll have companies that combine the two. And again, in my experience, that's exactly what we did. We had outside salespeople and we had inside salespeople. And in fact, what we did very successfully was we have an outside salesperson calling on a whole number of accounts, and they could only call on them, say, once a month or maybe once every 2 months, depending on how big they were and how efficient it was to get to that particular retailer or distributor or whatever. But they would combine, they would couple up with an inside salesperson who would call them or be able to call them on a more regular basis just to check in, how things going. Did you get that order that we sent you last week? Do you have any issues with any of the new products we just presented to you? It's amazing how much additional value and power there is when you put those two things together. So you've got sales and marketing working together, you can have inside sales and outside sales working together. Now, again, for a lot of people in this room this evening, that's not really an issue because most of you are on your own. But down the road, when you start growing your business, think about when you want to hire the next person, are they going to be here in the office or are they going to be out on the street? There's, again, pros and cons for both. Factory reps versus independent reps. Another big difference. Another term for independent reps is manufacturers reps. But factory reps is salespeople that work for the company. They're employed directly by the company. They're under the total control of the company. They tell them what time they have to start work, what time they finish work. They can control all their activities. So if they say, you're going to go and call on Joe Smith today, they better go and call on Joe Smith. If they say, we want you to make 7 calls today, or average 7 calls, they should make 7 calls, and they're under that total control. But they cost. You've got to hire that person, you've got to pay them a salary, or commission, or both, and so on and so forth. We'll cover that later. But you do have control over them. On the other hand, particularly for a lot of startup businesses who can't afford to hire someone straight away, the alternative is to look for an independent rep. Someone who maybe is well experienced in your industry and has additional capacity, additional time, and very often is calling on the same customers, the same stores, same geographic area that you're interested in going. You may hire one of them and you will pay them typically on a commission basis as opposed to a salary, which is a fixed cost. When you're paying a commission, that's a variable cost, and you'll only have to pay them if they actually make a sale. And if you pick the right one or two, that can be a tremendous enhancement to your own ability to sell. And do it properly, it's basically, it's a no-cost win-win situation. Because again, you're not going to pay them unless they actually make sales. So again, in my experience, we've done the same thing. Even though we had our own salespeople covering most of the country, there were occasionally opportunities for us to hire an independent rep, where it just wasn't cost effective for us to do it ourselves. Okay, does that make sense? And you can have some very specialty situations too. We actually, where was it? Oh, it's at Hamilton Beach Proctor Silex. We actually had an independent rep who we used to sell to Target, which was our 3rd largest customer. Yeah, 3rd largest customer. So that's a big risk we were taking there, but why do we do it? We did it because that particular gentleman had an incredibly wonderful relationship with just about everybody in Target. So, even though he was an independent rep and we put so much business through him, he really only repped 2 lines, ours and one other person. It paid us to pay him a very healthy commission, which was more expensive than what we would have had to pay if we paid him a simple salary, but he paid that back 5-10 times. So there was a reason for hiring an independent rep. So again, a lot of these things I'm talking about is you think about the structure of your company and how you're going to build your sales organization. You know, it doesn't always have to be one size or one aspect of it. You can put things together and make it hybrid. Transactional versus relationship selling. Anyone want to take a quick guess about that? We're going to cover that in a little bit more detail.
Transactional, we're just buying. Relationship, they want to know more about what they're buying, and if it's good for them, they want to feel what they're doing is
Brilliant.
doing well.
Very, very well done. Yeah, transactional selling is basically a very simple process, very simple transaction. There's not a lot happening, you know, you're walking down the store, there's a can of Coke, and you pick up the can of Coke and away you go, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least as far as that retailer selling the can of Coke to the consumer's concerned, do you think there's any relationship selling going on with the guy that managed or girl that managed to get that store to carry Coke in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course there was. Lots of it, right? So again, we'll talk about the difference between transactional and relationship selling, but very often you'll have a combination of both again. So next slide, please.
I think it, come on, gee.
No, you're going the wrong way again. There you go.
I'm gonna get you a bigger bag.
All right.
I got one.
It's only going to be a 5% increase on the zero. Okay. The next aspect of sales is a very, very important one, which is distribution. Okay. Again, for those of you who were here last week, we talked about the 5 P's of marketing. Do you remember what one of the P's were that may relate to this slide? You got people, price, promotion, product. What was the 5th one?
Profit.
Product, place, people, price, promotion.
Which one? Place, right? Place. What's place all about?
Where you're selling it?
Where you're selling
Location.
it. Exactly. Where are your customers? Where is your product? What place are we talking about? And distribution channels get into that aspect of place. So again, we talked about direct to end user, where you've got your own sales team. You might have an e-commerce site where you're selling direct to the consumer in their place, which is their home, possibly, or it could be to a business, so it's direct to their business. You might have a catalog, a direct mail program that's being mailed direct to their home or their office or wherever. You may have a storefront or how do you sell your barbecue?
Retail and farmers markets.
Oh, okay, farmers market. So, and you're there, right? So,
Yeah.
so you're in a place having direct contact with the consumer buying your product, right? So you go where where you think there's going to be consumers who are potentially going to buy from you,
Yeah.
right?
And like my business is, the advantage of me doing my business is that I go to people's homes. There's another place that does it where the people have to go into a clinic,
Ah,
but
right.
since my patients can't see well,
You go to them.
I go to them.
You go to them, right? So there's lots of ways in which you can get directly to the end user, to their place. There's also indirect to the end user. I mentioned this earlier, where you have a product, but you need that product to be carried by, yours by the way is also direct, right? Again, we talked about it. But again, with a company like Fisher Price Toys, Hamilton Beach Proctor Silex, we had retailers that carried the product, so they were between us and the end user. In the kitchen cabinet business, very, very complex business, we did everything other than sell directly to the consumer. We had retailers, we had distributors, people who we would put our cabinets into their warehouse, and then they would distribute it to a builder who would then go and put it into someone's house. So it was a number of different steps to get to the end user, the person who was buying the house. We also had dealers, basically retailers for kitchen cabinets. They were called dealers in that in that industry, in that business, but they would have displays of our kitchen cabinets in their showrooms, and again, they would be between us and the end user. Another way of indirectly getting to the end user very often is if you have a product or a service, you can find affiliates, other companies that are interested in marketing or selling your product. Might be on another website. So you have a product and you go to them and say, hey, would you, let's think, is there a company, is it Amazon? Is that maybe one of those kind of places? So Amazon, of course, sells a humongous amount of product of other people's.
They don't manufacture anything.
I don't think they do.
Their revenue though comes from their web services.
Right. Yeah, that's true. They had a good day today after a bad day yesterday. And again, as we've talked several times now this evening, there's a multi-channel hybrid approach. Again, in all my businesses, that's how we pretty much operated. We looked at the market, we looked at the geography, and we decided what's the best way to go to market? Where's the most efficient way to get to the ultimate user, where they are, where their place is of business, and so on and so forth. Next slide, please. So thinking about distribution channels is really the first major opportunity to grow your business. So when you think, or you start thinking about expanding your distribution channels, apart from anything else, it has the opportunity to build brand recognition. If you're in more places where your product is shown, the chances are more people will get to know about it. It can also decrease the risk to your business. I have a very good friend here in Oklahoma who are the exclusive distributor for Boar's Head products, you know, beautiful meats and so forth. And this really, I'm one slide ahead of myself here really, but they had a tremendous cross-section of retailers. Then they had the opportunity to go to Target, and they took it because it's a huge opportunity. Not everybody liked that. And so as a result of going into Target, they lost another very large customer. But at the same time, if you're only with one customer and they fall out of love with you, right, that's a very high risk. So by looking at distribution channels, by looking at expanding your distribution, you can actually reduce the risk. So you have the potential then to reach more customers, and as you reach more customers, obviously that hopefully drives an increase in sales and profit. Next slide. But as you assess thinking about expanding distribution channels, you do need to consider some of these things. Again, who is my customer and what are their needs? And by that I mean, what are their needs in terms of where they want to find the product? Do they want to sit at home and just Google it and find it online? If so, you'd better have a website with an e-commerce link to it so that they can in fact not just find you, but if they want to buy from you, and again, this gets a little complicated, that there aren't any other conflicts by you selling directly to them, and they've told you, I want to buy from you directly online, then you need to have an e-commerce site. Is it a simple process, or does it require information and service? If you've got a product or service that is simple, chances are you can almost go anywhere with the distribution of your product. But if it requires service and a lot of information, then the chances are it's not going to work for you. At American Woodmark, the kitchen cabinet manufacturer, we very often had calls from Lowe's and Home Depot. Sorry, not Lowe's and Home Depot, that was a huge part of our business, but from the other big box retailers like Target. They wanted to carry our line. They saw how much money retailers were making with kitchen cabinets, and it was a very high margin business for the retailer. They would come and say, hey, will you put your product into our stores? And we basically said no. We won't. And the reason for that is because it will fail. And the reason it will fail is because in order to be able to sell kitchen cabinets, you've got to have a very well-trained designer and very well qualified sales associates who can actually service that product.
Wow.
It is a very complicated product. How many of you have actually bought a new kitchen? 1, 2, 3,
Just put one in, just.
4. You got one going in? Is it an easy process?
No.
No. Right? When I was at American Woodmark, it was a well-known saying that if someone ordered, we built the order, we shipped the order, it arrived and got installed without a problem, you were lying. Because it was literally impossible for something not to go wrong in that process.
You're always
There are-
putting a square peg in a round hole.
Oh, there are so many opportunities for errors in doing a kitchen. Even from builders building brand new kitchens in brand new houses, they would screw it up left, right and centre for all sorts of reasons. So, you know, if the product doesn't fit the place, you know, you can't do it. It won't make sense. You'll fail. Okay, so you need to think about stuff like that. How and where do they expect to buy? You know, do they expect to get service in addition to the actual product? I'm looking to see, who can I talk to? You. What's your business? You're in the transportation business, right?
Freight broker, yes, sir.
Yeah, so they're buying a trucking company, right?
Right. They are actually getting the products moved, the freight moved from one place to another.
Right. And do they need more than just the price from you?
The prices, I guess, is probably a big thing. I mean, but they need, who's gonna, transport it, make sure that they qualified to do so and
Right,
can do it safely.
right. And probably a bunch of information about where it is. and
Right,
when
I
it's gonna
definitely
arrive
need
and-
it, yeah. What they sending in, what they sending in is hazmat, things like that, so.
Right. So am I meeting my customers at their place? That's what you'd be thinking about. And how then can I meet more of them? Right? You're doing calls, house calls. How do you meet more of them?
Right now, what I'm doing is I'm going to the doctor's offices and where they go to get, diagnosed and treated for their
Okay.
eye conditions.
Because that's where your potential clients are going,
Yeah.
is to an eye.
Because I've also tried going to health fairs and stuff like that,
Right.
but people are interested in it, but then they forget about it and don't follow